Now, if you're watching this video right now, I personally assume that you have at least one desire present in your life right now that you would like to manifest. Maybe it's several desires, that is fine too. And in this video, we're going to talk about a special state of mind that will help you to manifest your goals more effortlessly. So let's jump into this video right now. Now, the main question that we're asking ourselves always is, how can we achieve new outer circumstances via an internal realignment, right? How is that possible, right? By doing something within, by shifting within, by changing our inner world. How is it possible that we can achieve new outer circumstances and, of course, the exact circumstances that we want, right? Now, the key moment here in that whole process is the point where what you desire, no matter what it is, the relationship, the money, the business success, the job, the health, the new friendship circle, the higher version of you, more peace in life, right? The key moment is the point where what you desire and what you are now becoming one, right? Basically, the key moment is the point of fusion, of being it in the present moment, right? I am it now. Your awareness is occupied with that wish-fulfilled state in the here and now. That is the key moment. And for that, I personally figured out that relaxation is, of course, very important. So this video will evolve around relaxation, but also triggers. So stay with me. This will all make sense in 1 second. So again, we ask ourselves, hey, how can we achieve these new outer circumstances? We then learn, hey, my outer circumstances are a mirror of my inner state. And the magic moment is basically the moment where the state that I live in right now and my desire state become one, where I am now in my desire state, where I'm it now, right? And then there is a vacuum, basically. There's a vacuum because within you are it already, within you are already in that new identity, that new state, but without, in your external circumstances around you, in your screen of space, so to speak, in your outer experience, you don't see it, right? There's a vacuum, and consciousness does not like a vacuum. Consciousness does not like this gap. So it will basically rush in and mold and reshuffle your life in a way that this new state you live in internally, which you claim to be now, again, the magic moment is that now you are it, everything molds around that new state so that it's also perfectly reflected on the outside. But in order to go into the new state, we usually need relaxation, because if we're not relaxed, we will heavily rely on our rational mind, which tells us all the reasons why it might not be possible. And you have to also understand this, your reasoning comes from your present state. So if your present state is desiring it, wanting it, not having it, your reasoning mind will give you all reason to believe that it is not possible. It will give you all reason to believe why you are who you are right now and why this will stick and why you are stuck if you rely on your rational mind. But if we relax and then we declare, I am now X, Y, and Z. I am now in the wish fulfilled, and we then surrender to the wish fulfilled, then that's the magic moment. Right? But the problem for most people then, when they start to do that process, is the triggers in the outer circumstances. Right? So they do that, they shift into the wish fulfilled, they start to imagine an end, and they feel saturated maybe, they feel a relief, they feel, okay, yeah, it's done. And then, okay, they go about their day-to-day experience, but then something triggers them. Right? Someone who wants to manifest a relationship, they see a couple and they get a tight throat, and they're like, why them, not me? Or someone wants to manifest money, they see someone on the internet being successful, but they still have, bills coming in or red numbers, and it makes them triggered, right? Or same with health, same with any other life area. So the problem then is the triggers, which definitely pull us back in the old state if we're not observing what is going on here and if you're not doing something about that, which is what I'm going to teach you right now. So then the problem is that some people try to avoid triggers, and that I call this self-restriction, right? People want to stop smoking, they then avoid circles of people where people might smoke, or parties or events or birthdays or whatever, because, oh my God, I could encounter smokers and no, I'm not smoking, and they throw the cigarettes away, but they still actually have the urge. Their inner man, their inner state is still one of a smoker. Or same with relationships, right? Someone wants to manifest a partnership, the specific person, whatever it is, they then try to avoid reading something online because, it could trigger me, and they restrict themselves, right? They isolate themselves from life instead of actually going out and understanding that this life is not against you, that this life is not has more power or is actually overwhelming. It's only like a finger pointing at you, telling you where you have a seemingly lack. We're just in a second going to talk about this. So the question that I want to cover in this video, right, in this magical or special state of mind that I introduced in the beginning that will help you to manifest anything effortlessly, first is relaxation. But the question is, how can we utilize our triggers? Because again, we will get triggered from time to time, especially when we want to manifest something and then we fall out of the wish fulfilled state and boom, something in life happens and we're triggered again. How can we utilize triggers from life to get into a relaxed state before we shift? Because I'm sure you have understood it or experienced it by yourself that while you are in the agitated state of mind, while you are in the triggered state of mind, it is very hard to shift because you're so overwhelmed and all your mind can think about it is so loud and it just tells you what you just saw, what you just experienced. So while you're in the triggered moment itself, in that moment, it can be hard to shift. But how can we utilize those moments to get back into a relaxed state, which is definitely more helpful to shift? Because in the relaxed state, it's like your mind is more calm, your thoughts and fears will not, you will not get entangled in those. You can more effortlessly bring your attention to the state of the wish fulfilled. How can we do that? How can we utilize our triggers? Okay. Now, I want to tell you that. So 10 people, 100 people, doesn't matter, could read the same headline, yet not everyone would be triggered. Why I included that point here is that the headline, the external circumstances, what is happening in your 3D, what you see in the world around you, that is not, again, opposing you, bigger than you, bad. You have to not fight against it or cover your eyes. That's a circumstance, and no matter in which state you subjectively are, you react differently or not at all. So that's why I said 10 people could read the same headline. The headline is saying an inflation is coming, a virus is coming, this and that is coming. But depending on who you are within, you see differently. Someone who is in a scarcity consciousness, in a financial lacking consciousness, they see that and they might get triggered and have even more fears and worries, right? And they dwell and they let the outer objective world hypnotize them and lure them in, and they react on what is, and it's a very nasty, perpetual, vicious cycle, right? But other people who see that, they're in a state of financial abundance, they see that and it's not causing anything, right? So it's not the circumstance here, it's who we are in the present moment that will determine how we react. So what triggers do when you find yourself being triggered by something? I don't want you to have fear of a trigger. I don't want you to have fear triggers. No, triggers are just uncovering a present lack, a present seemingly lack within you. There's actually no lack within you because you are whole and abundant. You are an infinite awareness that is dwelling in certain states. But when you forget yourself in a state, the state of financially struggling, and then you desire financial wealth, and then something in the outside shows you back that you don't have your desire yet, you will feel this trigger because in that moment you are in the state of financially struggling. But all states are within you, so would you go and remember that? You would not be triggered. But also if you would be in the state of financial abundance, that circumstance would not trigger you. So again, triggers are uncovering a present, seemingly lack within you. They're revealing your present inner state, right? And that is important because you will notice, you will find this out for yourself, that once you realign yourself with him to the new state, to the desired state, that which previously triggered you, that question from your family or best friend who asks you about your relationship, who asks you about money, who asks you about health, which previously triggered you, after you've shifted back to the end state, after you've dwelled back in being it here now, that same question will seem like it's no longer me. I'm no longer identified with that. Why are they still saying that? You kind of internally laugh it off. You don't really take it so serious because you're within someone new. The outer circumstance now no longer triggers you, right? So triggers and reactions to life are the number one indicator showing you in which state you dwell. I would sign that. I've experienced that. So that's why we want to keep this non-critical, uncritical self-observation through our day-to-day life alive, and stay aware of that, so that when we find that we get triggered about something, this can only be the case because there is a desire present. Otherwise, you would not be triggered. If things would be absolutely as you want them to be, there would be no trigger. But when again and again and again you get triggered, when you see couples, when you hear about relationships, when you hear about health, when you hear about money, when you hear about business success, then it can only trigger you because you have a desire for change. And then we can utilize that moment to shift into the desired version of us, which would no longer be triggered. So triggers are good. They point towards your desires. Exactly what I just said. Right? If you get triggered, that can only be because you desire something. There's already a desire present. Right? Does that make sense to you? Let me know in the comments, please. But it's like when you have no desire for a relationship and you see a couple, then you just see a couple. You say, okay, that's neutral. Right? But when you have a strong desire for a relationship, and then you might see a couple on the streets or online, and it triggers you because you're like, I wish I could also have this. Like, why them, not me? Why don't I have this? Well, you are only triggered in that moment because you do desire to be someone new, to be in a new state. So they are pointers towards what you desire. And therefore, triggers are opportunities to outgrow your present state, right? To go back into the silence, to go back into the relaxation, to go back eventually into the wish fulfilled, but not at the moment you're triggered. Let the trigger be there, right? Fully allow the trigger, allow the emotions that come with the trigger, allow the anger that potentially comes with that, allow the sadness that potentially comes with that. Don't fight that. Don't think that, oh, I shouldn't be triggered. That's bad. I'm delaying the manifestation, or I'm causing the manifestation to not happen because, oh my God, I got triggered. No, the trigger is just an opportunity again to go back into wish fulfilled, but the trigger is not a problem, right? The trigger is not the problem. The problem is when you remain in the current state, right? Because you get triggered and then you talk yourself into it, or you then blame yourself, like, why did I got triggered here, and I should have not got triggered, and why am I still triggered? What am I doing wrong? And you perpetuate the trigger instead of letting it happen non-critically, non-judgingly, in a non-judging way, and then shift back. Most people lose themselves in a trigger, and then the next day, the next week, they will get triggered again, right? This will cause you to stay triggered if you then don't shift out of the state that in the first place made you be triggered. Do you know what I mean? Right? So the trigger is not the problem. The problem is when you remain in that state which causes the trigger. So after you've had the trigger, let it be there. Be triggered. Have these emotions that come with that. Okay, and after that, right, we then go back into the silence. But we first allow the trigger. So the triggers are a very special moment, because with triggers, we can see, hey, okay, in that moment, I'm out of my state. I let myself be triggered. And then I cool down, right, over the course of minutes or hours. And then I don't let it be there, because I would still be in the state that would the next time cause me to get triggered again. But after I release that and let that be there and simply let it arise without attaching to all of these emotions and things that came up, then I return back into the silence, I relax, and I give myself within again the state of the wish fulfilled. Right? So don't run away from what triggers you. I have people tell me that people who want to manifest, better weight or other things, they avoid to jump on their scale, on their weight scale, because it will trigger them. You can do that, right? You can consciously, hey, I on purpose avoid the circumstances that might trigger me to easier stay in the wish fulfilled. But I would also invite you to be open to life and not self-restrict yourself from certain events. Because then you always say, oh, I can't do this, I should not do this, doing this might cause me to trigger. No, if you understand that the triggers would be no problem and just would give you an opportunity to go back into the wish fulfilled, then so what? Go openly into your world. Go openly into the triggers. But don't let the sun go down with your trigger. Meaning when you got triggered, be fully triggered, and then you use it as an opportunity to go back into the relaxation and therefore then back into the wish fulfilled. Surrendering back into the here and now, being your desired version of yourself. Right? So instead, change the inner state. Triggers dissolve even if the circumstances don't at first. Right? So don't run away from what triggers you. That is not going to change something, right? You can, let's just say you always get triggered when you see couples on the street, and then you say, okay, I no longer go out. I will just stay in because I might see couples whenever I walk on the outside. And then you say, okay, I stay inside. And then you think, oh, I've solved it. Everything is good. Okay, I don't get triggered anymore because I'm not seeing it, at least on the outside. And then your best friend visits you and he asks you, hey, so what about your relationship life, for example? And then boom, you still get triggered because that's still alive within you. So instead of avoiding something on the outside, change your inner state, right? And then what the circumstance that triggers you, they will dissolve, right? The triggers will dissolve, even if the circumstance stays the same. So even if then you still see a couple which previously triggered you because you were in a state of lacking, for example, happy partnership, if that is what you want, you then see it, but it's very neutral. It no longer causes you, right? Your triggers are not dependent on the circumstances. They are dependent on who you are within in that present moment. So allow triggers, and after you notice them, then you realign. So it's like a two-step process, right? Allow triggers, and after you notice them, you realign back. It's a two-step process. You first allow the triggers, let them be there, let them overwhelm you, have the courage to let it overwhelm you, face it, right? What we avoid persists, what we look at disappears. So look at it, be triggered, ask yourself, what's the desire behind that? Fully let the emotions come up, and then after you've kind of cooled down, we then shift back. Very simple two-step process. So the key learning, to sum it up, allow all emotions that come with the trigger and then gently maneuver back in the desired state. That's it. You'll see that the circumstances will seem less overwhelming. Which previously triggered you will no longer trigger you, because you are then in the here and now, internally already in the wish fulfilled. And then eventually these circumstances, functioning as a confirming mirror, will also reflect that back, right? And circumstances that triggered you will no longer trigger you, because again, your triggers and your reactions to life come from where you stand within. It's not dependent on the circumstances. 10 people could see the same circumstance and all see it differently, all react differently towards the same, actually neutral, objective circumstance. So the circumstances are pointing like a finger at you, telling you who you are. So stay aware of that. Let the triggers be there. And when you got triggered, so what? Let it be. And then use that as an opportunity to go back into the relaxation, back into the wish fulfilled. If you need help with that, if you want an environment that nurtures that supports you, you want to have a framework, you want to have step-by-step systems, you want to have my accountability, my coaching, my guidance for your unique situation, you'd like a community around you, and you'd like to be part of a bigger vision, like a movement to change the world, right? With those teachings, with more self-awareness, creating peace in your inner world, shifting into the desired state so that your life reflects back, what is relevant for you to externalize and express in your life, so that we can not only manifest your desires, but also anchor you in a community that, is very empowering and everybody supports each other. Then click the second link in the video description or pinned comments, and you can check out what I prepared for you. You can check out the Upgrade Your Life program and community, and I look forward to see you inside. Bye guys, thanks for watching.